Okay, we have a lot of people here today, which is all right. So Brent and Mike and Laura are here from the city. And we've got Tom and LaDonna and Scott and Hannah and myself, and we've got Andrew, but it's the Toth. Andrew.
Yeah, nice.
Okay. And then we have Colleen from the city, and then we have other people that I.
So Jared Chipman, our planning manager and community development.
Thanks for coming.
And Amanda Henderson.
Amanda is our new council rep.
Yes.
Hey, so welcome. Oh, wow. Okay, are we ready for the public comment? Okay. Does anybody want to talk? Do you want to talk, John?
Sure.
Okay, let me just do my little thing.
Oh.
If you wish to address the board under public comment, please prepare for the time limit of 3 minutes per speaker. We expect comments to be civil, disrespectful, or disruptive behavior will not be tolerated. The board is not authorized under the Colorado Open Meetings Law to discuss, comment, or take action at this meeting on any issue raised by public comment that's not part of tonight's agenda. Okay, John, go for it.
Hello and happy new year to y'all. I'm John Levine, resident of Littleton. My concern is with the South Metro Waste Diversion Plan that does not implement single hauler waste pickup until at least 2030. I am concerned with the lost opportunity to implement an easily manageable option for Littleton residents that could have a more immediate impactful result by starting our own citywide plan. I understand the desire for a South Metro plan as it brings a larger economy of scale to a project and incorporates multiple aspects of a wider, more encompassing project. But I don't think the delay is worth it. What if you continue down this path of planning and a new council comes in and decides it's not worth the effort or money to pursue this goal? Then we end up with nothing, and your time and effort is wasted. This citizens group could even be terminated. I say take a small win now, get it implemented, and then expand and improve on it as time allows. I would like to leave you with a quote from page 113 of Ezra Klein's book, Abundance. The quote reads, "One problem liberals are facing at every level where they govern is that they often add too many goals to a single project. A government that tries to accomplish too much all at once often ends up accomplishing nothing at all." Please take this to heart, and I encourage you all to do what you can to implement single hauler program as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Hey, Colleen.
Hi. Thanks for having me. Thanks, Laura, for inviting me. Just going to go over some membership stuff real quick and then some reminders about attendance. We are in the midst of our recruitment window for vacancies and potential vacancies on all of our boards and commissions. And there are 3 members on this body with terms ending this year that if they wish to be considered for continued representation on the board would need to submit an application online. Council does intend to interview even those who are currently serving that want to continue serving. And so those members are Tom, because you were appointed, I believe, last year, but you were fulfilling an existing term for Amy. So you would need to reapply Hannah and Scott. Okay, so if you intend to continue serving, the deadline is midnight on the 31st. We have set aside February 24th and 25th at this time for interviews, and potentially the 23rd, depending on the number of applicants we get for all bodies. So, any questions on that? Okay, the other thing I wanted to talk about is attendance and commitment. When you are appointed by council, and this is the first time Amanda is hearing this because she's brand new and is going to be experiencing boards and commissions. I'm so excited. It's all week. Boards and commissions, council retreat, fun for everyone, right? So when we onboard new board members, these are members that are being appointed by council after careful consideration of the applications, a short interview process. And these are persons that they feel are going to bring something unique to the body they're being appointed to. You know, the bodies that we have with the city are crucial in supporting council's function, right? Because council cannot be all things to everybody. And so these bodies are formed kind of as an arm of council to advise them on some of these issues, things like John spoke about. And so they really are looking at people that are going to bring passion, experience, commitment, are going to be at the meetings, you know, ahead of time, the day of the week and the time of the month that you meet. And when we do the initial trainings in April of every year, because we do trainings for new board members as well as returning board members, so you get to hear the same thing over and over. We do issue an employee handbook. Everybody should have been emailed a copy when you first came on board. There's an acknowledgement that everyone signs. And part of that handbook states that if you have more than 3 consecutive absences, and these are generally referring to unexcused absences, but even if they're excused and we see a pattern and attendance is starting to be a problem to the point where the board really can't have the robust discussions that they need to have, then it's incumbent on the staff liaison or the board chair or both to reach out to council and say, we may have an issue. You know, and what that does is that gives council an opportunity to have a conversation with the board member. Are there extenuating circumstances? Is there a reason? Is that member still trying to fulfill that commitment, be involved, be active, those kinds of things, before there's an arbitrary decision to just replace them, right? Again, council really does take appointment very seriously, and they take removal of someone from a board just as seriously. I've been with the city 15 years. I have seen them remove. So, questions on attendance. I mean, I know everybody has lives, they have jobs, they travel. Laura, did you want to say anything?
Yeah, I think it's just helpful to know, and once you know, just let us know if you can't come. And that's usually best via email. And this was actually also a surprise to me. Technically, you're supposed to tell myself, your chair, Brent, since we're both the staff liaisons, as well as Colleen on that email. And it's supposed to be at least 24 hours in advance. Obviously things come up, life happens, people have families, all of that, and you don't need to tell me everything about your life and the reason you can't come, right? But it'd be good to know instead of being ghosted sometimes, okay, yes, I have something, I have, a business trip, which, usually people tell me about those, but whatever the case may be, just communicate, because that's always better than radio silence.
And I believe we do have a member of the board that hasn't been.
Well, they're not.
Yeah. Well, right. Yeah. But they haven't been to a meeting and you haven't had any contact with them
Since June.
Okay. Yeah. So they likely will be recommended for replacement. But we want to nip some of these things in the, before we get to that point, we want to be able to have those conversations. and just say, you know, is this a commitment that maybe isn't in line with your life right now? Might it be better if you come back, or is there a different board that, because you're all here because you want to serve your community. You're not here because you happen to have a random night once a month where you want to spend several hours in a room with 7 of your new best friends. And because
cookies.
and cookies. Because Gretel brings
So maybe there is.
maybe for this board. For this board, it's you, Gretel, right? You've all signed up because you want to serve your community. And so all we ask is that communicate with us. Let us know, again, like Laura said, you don't have to give us your life story, just, I'm not gonna be at the meeting. If we start seeing patterns, and this is a conversation I'm gonna have with all of our advisory boards, so no one here is being targeted. We wanna go into this recruitment cycle with everybody feeling they've been well-informed about the expectation.
And I mean, if it doesn't make sense for you, there are so many ways that I could still use help in the community with different connectors. And since we're going through the recruitment process, it's better if you let us know sooner so that council can appoint someone and replace you during their regular process, rather than, you know, just sort of dropping off at a certain point.
I mean, they would still, yeah, exactly, but for the ones that need to reapply, you know, if you're reapplying because you think you might want to continue, but you're not sure, and maybe in 6 months you're going to drop out, maybe let us know that too, because, you know, council may weigh other applications heavier if they feel like someone may not be fully committed. You know, and I will tell you, as someone who processes those applications, council is usually reviewing upwards of 70 to 80 applications to fill 15 to 20 vacancies. You know, Scott's been through that process when he served on council, so he certainly knows, right? That it's not just an eeny, meeny, miny, moe kind of process. So questions, comments, concerns?
For those of us whose terms are up, what would be our last meeting?
So you would continue to meet through the end of March. Terms for our board and commissions run April 1st through March 31st. So you would continue to meet through the end of March. Your last meeting would be March. New terms would start April 1. The first Wednesday in April, we'd meet. We would do training, refresher, nominate a new chair, nominate a new vice chair, or renominate the same chair and vice chair. See how that goes. But so that starts April 1 of every year.
And you said the terms are usually 2 years, but I'm
They're
on
3 years.
I'm
they're-
on 1 year.
Yeah, so when you were appointed to fulfill the remainder of somebody else's term. And there was a year left on that term. So if you choose to reapply for consideration to continue serving, and if appointed, you would be appointed for 3 years and wouldn't have to reapply again for 3 years. And we do those staggered. We don't move that term, because what ends up happening if we had said, okay, we're going to give Tom a full 3-year term versus finishing that, at one point you end up with everybody going off the board at the same time. And then you have no, you know, continuity of information. And so we try to stagger our boards the same way we stagger council.
You could think of it as a bonus year,
Sorry.
kind of like a bonus year.
Yeah. Right, because you can serve 3 full terms, which means you could do 10 years on this board where somebody else is. Let's say it. I know that sounds like a lot of time, but we do
So I
have
could get the
people,
record then almost.
we do have people who serve their full terms on one board and then go to another board. Like we do.
Or go to council.
Or go to council, yeah, we do.
Or
It's
vice
true.
versa.
Yeah, or join us from.
I mean, Hannah's on her second board here, so. But thank you for asking that question, Scott.
I do hope we will all read. I personally
Heard your chair.
would miss you.
Mhm.
A lot.
This isn't to call anyone out. I just want to make sure people understand what they're signing up for, and they don't feel blindsided when I send emails. It's like, please let me know. And it sounds scary or something, but I don't mean it to be that way. I just want us to be effective and productive when we can.
And it's a real bummer when I make stuff and there's only 2 people here.
Well, see, and that's the real issue, right?
Come on, people.
So I do want to thank each of you for your service to the community and for taking time out of your lives to come here and do this work, which is important. Yeah. So, Amanda, do you have any questions about the recruitment process?
No, okay, just getting onboarded to everything.
Just throwing everything at you at one time.
It's great.
So, okay. Well, thanks for having me.
Thank you, Colleen.
Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your meeting.
Thank you.
These guys up next. So, awesome. Thanks, guys.
Jared, you're up.
All right, fantastic. I will share my presentation here. Hopefully. All right, well, thank you for having me this evening. So I'm here to talk about 2 items. They're both code updates, so to the Unified Land Use Code that we see on the horizon. The first one that I'm going to discuss is the electric vehicle charging stations. So in discussing future work planning with the Plan Commission, this item came up and they thought that the SB would be a wonderful location to have a conversation and see if you had any thoughts on some development requirements, some kind of additional development requirements. I'll go over a little bit what that means here in a minute. And then the second one are fuel sales retail, AKA gas stations. The city council has a moratorium in place currently, and so we'll be working with the Plan Commission to revise some of our fuel station standards, and I'll get into that in more depth here in a minute as well. Agenda, I went over that, introduction, 2 items, and then any questions you might have. So a little bit more about the electronic vehicle charging stations and the conversation there. So House Bill 24-1173, sorry, my Zoom little box is in the way. Created the necessity for the Colorado Electric Vehicle Charging Model Land Use Code and Guidance. So this document is actually subsequent. So that the House bill created the framework saying, this is what we want to accomplish. And we want all the municipalities to adhere to some form of this document. They actually gave us some options, whereas normally it's like, here it is. Here's the code, adopt it. So this time we have some more options, but the framework is there. And so I'll go over a little bit of that. But I've been working with the states to comply with this document. So the House bill came out and the states took some time with some consultants to generate this document. They wanted us all to have updated our code by January 1st, but their guidance didn't come out until the summer. So they understand that that's not going to happen. And so they've given us some leeway there, even though the House bill indicates a time frame. They've administratively given us some leeway. So we're still working towards that, trying to get it done here in the near future. And this is an item that will be going to Plan Commission for a study session later this month. I want to come here first so I can take the input back to them. Yeah, so that's kind of the background behind why we're having this conversation. So requirements in that model land use code talk about the city would need to allow electronic vehicle charging stations as a principal use in certain districts. So I took this snippet of our land use table because it shows where we have accessory charging stations. So EV charging stations accessory. So we have it in parts of the downtown, the commercial districts, and then the multifamily and industrial, as well as open space. So largely for the principal land use or the principal use, the districts are pretty much the same. We're really looking at downtown, but we're planning on removing the historic core because we want the historic buildings to stay rather than being redeveloped into a vehicle charging station. But you would still be able to do accessory charging stations there. It just wouldn't be the principal use on the parcel, right?
Just a quick question, just clarification, just 'cause I'm not in code all day, every day, so I don't always know the definitions. So principal use versus accessory use. Could you explain the difference between those two?
Absolutely. So the principal use is you have a parcel, the charging station is the primary use of that land. So if instead of like a single family home parcel, if you put the charging station there, that's a poor example because we wouldn't allow it in single family home. Yeah, but that's kind of the same. If you think of your lot, the whole lot would be dedicated to that use. Whereas accessory use would be, oftentimes you'll see it at like a grocery store. Grocery store is there, there's a bank of charging stations out in the parking lot. That's an accessory use because it's not the main thing you're going there for normally. Yeah, and charging use, that can be a little different. It can't be a destination of its own, but the grocery store would be the principal use on that lot.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And there's also some process elements to the model code. So the city would be required to have an administrative process for these charging stations as principal uses. What that means is that if you wanted to build a charging station in a location that was allowed to be built, that process would therefore have to be administrative. It would not be a process that would go to Plan Commission, City Council, like some of our other processes, right? And we actually do this a fair amount in Littleton, that we have a number of processes that go just through staff because City Council, Plan Commission, other elements have put criteria down for approval. And so we follow that criteria. As long as those items are met, everything is met, then staff's able to give that approval. So that's not necessarily uncommon for Littleton. Other cities it is. Not everybody does it that way.
I'm gonna interrupt real quick and just ask, what are the main features of the state law that we're expected to influence? I mean, in a nutshell, what are we doing as far as EV charging stations?
Yep, just allowing them as a principal use. And then that's kind of the next step though, on a principal, if we allow it as, required to allow it as principal use, but we can oftentimes do development restrictions. So you need to have, landscape setback around it. You could have it be a certain distance from a road, like things of that nature. Whereas accessory uses, the code indicates that they actually have some items that we need to strike through. So accessory uses would be exempted from setbacks and screening requirements. So they're really trying to make them able to be located in an easy fashion, and the process would just be a building permit. We wouldn't be able to do a site plan or something.
I mean, isn't so many things these days with the state's priorities and federal priorities at absolute cross purposes, and I mean, almost a forced decline in the industry. Are we seeing proposals at all for people to make EV charging a primary use on any parcel anywhere in the city?
I have not received an inquiry into primary use.
What about accessory? Are we seeing even that come down? And if so,
Yeah, we do see a number of accessory applications come in. So they come in kind of periodically. Oftentimes there, for instance, a lot of the new car dealers have been installing a lot more charging stations because a lot of their fleets now have that component to them. I've seen some at Dish Network and a few others as well. So yeah, those are much more common, the accessory.
so it sounds like we've already been facilitating that somehow as a city through our existing land use code. What does the state law do to help us?
Yeah.
Or EV charging stations?
So for the accessory item, we're almost in compliance. We're like this close. All we gotta do is basically take out the landscaping and screening items and we're in compliance. So, and we more or less do that, but we'll have to make it a little more explicit in the code. The principle right now, our code isn't great on principle EV charging stations. It actually falls within the fuel station definition. And that is much more restrictive than the state wants. And so we're looking to separate those two, pull it out of the fuel station, and have its own line item.
It sounds like even with the state deadline that's already passed, we probably have quite a bit of time to accomplish this because there's no real consumer demand for EV charging stations as a primary parcel that we know of.
Yeah, so we still have to work with the state because, and this is a conversation that I know a number of municipalities, council, et cetera, have been having is what teeth does the state have to enforce if we don't comply in a certain timeline. Our desire is that we're close enough that we don't think this is a really, really big lift or something that's really out of the realm of possible in our code. So we would still like to try to comply in a reasonable time frame so as to just not even have the conversation of what the enforcement mechanism is. And then drafting code standards. We're currently drafting an update to the ULUC. We've been sending it back and forth to the state's consultant for review. So we're getting a number of those items.
So can I interrupt again? I'm sorry on this. Where are we at in terms of the ULUC update? Because a lot of stewardship and sustainability work happens or doesn't through the ULUC, and it's certainly been an interest of this board to be involved in that process. Now we have a lot going on, and we've had a lot of goals, and so we haven't done that. But is there any chance this cycle that we could send some type of sort of position paper to staff and council, and or have we missed the boat?
Yeah, so I think I've got a twofold answer for you. For the EV charging and fuel station item, we prefer to keep that one moving, but we do want to do a subsequent larger ULUC update that would be much broader, and that would be throughout the course of the year. I think that's really a better place to take in that feedback.
That should be something for the next iteration of the board to really prioritize is giving input on the ULUC. I mean, I was on council when it was enacted the first time, and I really lamented even then, along with a lot of members in the community, that more stewardship and sustainability work was not done in that code, and I think there's a lot of room for improvement in those regards, and so we should point the council in those directions.
I'm more than happy to work with your liaison to come back and have additional conversations or take more information from you. Either way, if you want my presence, I'm happy to come to a subsequent meeting and engage in that conversation.
Not to take you too far off topic, do you have any preview you could give us as far as what the pieces of the ULUC that are going to be most focused on by staff or revisions, and how that might dovetail with what this board?
Yeah, I plan on finalizing some of that work planning with the planning commission here on the 26th. But a part of that we have heard are some elements of the landscaping section of the code. So, and I do know that a few of we have a sustainability like bonus section, and that if we have the time to tackle that, we wouldn't mind updating it as well. So this might be a really good cycle to work with you on that.
Yeah, I mean, some community members have come to the board over the years and in the council when we were first doing the ULUC to talk about, when you build a building, it's here for a long time. And anything that can be done to improve its performance in a sustainability sense is really important, so long as you're not displacing the roles like the right of a landowner to build the thing, and things like affordable housing and so forth. It's been kind of an impossible goal to do sort of lead goal affordable housing building. So
yeah, absolutely. It's that's that balance of goals and trying to get to right size them. Absolutely.
Getting input on building standards, efficiency standards, and so on, like another thing for the
I didn't
version of
also add something here with the DRCOG, the Denver Regional Council of Governments Building Decarb program. We applied for that 4-year program with that funding that was specifically earmarked for Littleton. And we haven't heard back yet, so I can't provide any definitive answers. But one of the main goals and parts of our application was to do a deep dive with a consultant into exactly what you're talking about. And I would definitely want like ESB's input in that whole process. It's through the EPA. So right now I need to reach back out to DRCOG, and well, I already did, but we need to meet with them to see what that timeline looks like, because things have shifted a little bit with the federal government, but they still do have the funds, and it's a sizable amount for Littleton.
That's
So
great.
it was in our application, and they, for the first step, approved it, but the second step, they haven't issued the intent for the contract yet.
Well, and this keeps happening. I think the third item on the agenda is revisiting our goals and priorities. The sort of events in the world keep going in certain directions, like the waste diversion study just kind of fell in our lap. So we devoted time to that, and now it sounds like UC update might be another thing like that. So.
Nothing's as fast as we want, but yes, in the next, I would say 3 to 4 years, but it's not moving super quick with the EPA's current timeline. So we wanted it to hit the ground running a little faster, so I can have more. I mean, I'll have more updates once I talk to DRCOG, but I think they're kind of under a microscope at the moment, so I don't want to say too much or get them in trouble. But that's my current understanding. But I see you, and I have this on my radar, and I'd love to talk more and get ESB's input in this, because I think it's a great area of opportunity.
So I guess the question before you this evening in regards to this EV charging stations is, can you think of, and I'm really kind of drawing on, you as general users of, basic infrastructure. Can you think of anything that you've driven past maybe one of these and thought, oh, it'd be nice, or we should regulate and add X to it? Or I think it should have a more landscaping, less landscaping, different, things of that nature is really kind of what, because, and I say that, but we also do have some parameters. So I can't quite, pull anything out of the sky to add to the ordinance, but I am curious to hear if if you've, been to a location or driven past one and thought, oh, I think this could really function better for the city if it had or looked like X.
Seems like most chargers are part of parking lots, which is a great place to put them. Because parking lots are already not very attractive. So to have a charging station as part of that does nothing either way.
Absolutely, yeah, normally, I mean, it's, the code does say like, the charger cannot be counted as a separate parking space. It has to be within the parking count, just as a normal space. And normally the infrastructure is such that it doesn't really affect anything. So absolutely, completely understand.
And I would also love to see a fast charger at every single gas station. Like that's just the rule.
And
I know we can't retrofit them, but that would be awesome. You need a fast charger if you have a gas station.
well, that's kind of a part of the second step of this conversation is things similar to that. So that's the feedback I'm looking for.
Okay. Well, that's my feedback. A fast charger or a supercharger at every single gas station.
Those level 3s are nice, aren't they?
They'll just fit one.
Yes, with the
Or
North,
like
the
open
NA,
side one.
CES, whatever it is, with the North American Standard one. Also known as Tesla, apparently.
I think a lot of places have gone to that standard, yeah.
Yeah, most of the cars are there.
Excellent. Any other thoughts on EV? Otherwise, I'll move to my short
It's always
story.
interesting when an ecological or stewardship or sustainability goal is driven by private industry, because I think we typically lose equity goals when that happens, especially now when subsidies are vanishing for electric vehicles. What we're talking about becomes kind of a reserve of the almost hyper affluent. And one of the goals of our board has been equity, and you'd want to talk about placement of EV charging stations citywide, not just in places where the market drives their presence. And I think too, we're always focused on EV electric vehicle charging stations, but if we look out in the world, there are going to be fewer of them because they're becoming unattainably expensive, but there are e-bikes everywhere you look, and there aren't ready opportunities to charge those out in the world. A lot of people can certainly rock an e-bike to the grocery store. Can they charge it at the grocery store? No, it's just, well, take it home and charge it. Is that, best? I don't know. So in addition to EV charging stations, you might have e-bike charging stations, but
No, that's a very interesting concept. Excellent.
I assume there's a lot less consistency with types of chargers for e-bikes. That's
Sure.
really hard.
Exactly what I was thinking.
that's it's like USB plugs.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
hey, can you all just get together and pick one?
Yeah.
Right.
Like, we should be talking about that.
I
for-
know.
for e-bikes.
And if that happened, then what you're saying.
The port isn't like mission critical to the functioning of the battery, it's just proprietary, and it's annoying every time it is because the end users, are disadvantaged, so.
I'm not aware of e-bike battery built for fast charges. They're all trickle charges.
Yeah.
I've never seen anything other than that for e-bike.
Still, I don't know.
You mean like the rental ones where it's like a line of them and you can get an app and like check one out,
Bike share
like
perfect.
a bike share. I don't know why I'm imagining New York, but like the city bikes there.
My fear is like, how ironic would it be, but it's not outside the realm of the probable even.
not.
Like you end up with a glut of EV charging stations and a dearth of EVs. Because that market has been erased or is in the process of being erased. I mean, every major manufacturer that was declaring electric only fleets like GM
Backed up.
has about faced because incentive programs have been overturned essentially. So
Hopefully not permanent.
It's actually so long since we're
Hoping on.
capacity when we're talking about a lot of this, that by the time you do that, you pass the laws, you get the EV charger, maybe the tides will change politically at the federal level, right? It's like hard to predict that and know, but I think we have to think a little bit longer term or else we're all gonna wanna burrow into a hole, at least I will, but
we're just gonna find things.
I will say that Colorado is still running some of their programs, and that's through like enterprise funds. But that's more through like their Fleet Zero program, so that's like with businesses. And if they have fleets and those drivers, so a little bit different, but those cars still like operate and drive throughout communities. So I mean, there's still these niche markets, but totally it's really scary, like what GM's doing. Like, I totally understand what you're saying, and I appreciate the equity piece too. That's really important, and I think we need to always consider that as well.
Another question that's a bit more like stepping back, how does the energy get produced holistically? Does Littleton have any sort of, I don't know, requirements for Excel or whoever we're buying energy from, that some portion of it is, renewable?
I'm sure what our
I
friend.
can answer this. It's very nuanced. So Excel is regulated by the Public Utility Commission. Some of you may know this, some of you may not know this, but that's kind of all through this state coalition. So they all helped us join Colorado Communities for Climate Action. And as part of that work, they have opportunities for our council to give public comment on how they should regulate Excel and do exactly what you're saying, like pull off certain parts of the grid to make sure it's a certain section of renewable. And so I've been working with city manager's office to see if there's someone on council, because as a staff member, I'm legally not allowed to comment, but a council member can, and they can say, this is what I think, and they and CC4CA crafts something for them that's like, I believe this, and it goes on public record, and it's for a bunch of different rulings. So ozone regulations, as well as things like what the Public Utilities Commission is regulating. And there is a regulation going like right now through this pretty long process, and some legislation that's coming down the pipeline for them to have to more stringently come up with set goals. My understanding is that Excel isn't the worst of the worst in terms of our country's energy companies. However, they are still an energy company, so take with that what you will.
What did you say they're seen as though?
They're not the worst of the worst in terms of our country's like utility companies, because they're all run as monopolies, but it's still an energy company, right? So they're putting a lot of money towards trying to do the right thing, but they're still a monopoly. But they're regulated by this entity, and the state has some power. And because we're part of that coalition that y'all helped approve, one of our council members can serve as that liaison to have a voice where Littleton does have a platform. But as a singular city or as a singular board, at that point, we're like sort of like running ourselves into a wall unless we like think about that strategically. But I appreciate that comment, because it's a good plug to think about for council if someone is interested in being that point person and giving comment about some of these things. Yeah.
And I'll just add, the PUC in 2022 approved, let's see, phase 1 clean energy plan, which XL was required to reduce carbon emissions by 80% by 2030.
Oh, wow.
So, in fact, I think Colorado is very aggressive.
They're actually on target.
Yeah.
What's throwing them off target is the data centers. So I am plugged in through CC4CA about all of the ways we can comment and engage at a local level with those things. And so I'm trying to provide those opportunities to our council. But yeah, I'm legally not allowed to comment I can comment as a person, but it's a lot less effective as just a resident of Colorado than it is as if there's an elected official. So
Super curious to hear how they do that, because I bet you a lot of that percent was reliant on public and private investment in terms of EVs and solar panels and all
have credits.
Yeah.
pumps and all of that.
yeah, I'm gonna be curious too to hear.
Surprised, Scott, that you haven't been calling us out on acronyms. Usually you're.
I think we're close enough to public utility.
Okay.
I've been trying to define them.
We were there, we were there.
Reynolds buzzer.
Laura said Public Utility Commission, and then you said.
Yeah, that's
PUC.
why.
We all put it together.
Yeah.
Brent's not in trouble.
Scott used to be like the.
Yes.
Stop.
That's all right.
Only useful.
That's right.
But that's such a good point.
That's
because
why you have to stay, because we'll
doing
miss
that is so much more effective than saying we're gonna get 10 more people to drive EVs.
I mean, an EV might be
Talk about
full
this.
powered, right? You know,
It is.
go upstream, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Unless the house has solar panels and is fully.
Yeah, but if you put one at a fuel station or something like,
Yeah.
where's that power coming from?
Yeah.
Out in Littleton.
I think at some point Excel also, because I know we opted into this, had the option of paying a little extra to support wind. So I think a lot of regular
Yeah.
Sun,
funds.
and also
right.
sun
do
share.
that.
If you go out in eastern Colorado, there's some big farms. out
Yeah,
there.
and I think we paid a little extra for many years before we got our solar panels anyway.
We do one with solar, so we pay for like some type of
Yeah.
solar.
So it's slowly happening.
Yeah, it's slowly happening.
But there is an opportunity for us to have a voice, and I appreciate you bringing it up. It's important to affect the system. Sorry, Jared.
No, don't worry.
We've gone off of
I know.
The other thing I wanted to plug that I want to make sure we're thinking about is unfortunately like theft of some of the copper and metals. So like Denver Parks and Rec has had multiple thefts of like their cords after going through all the processes, like 2 days after people were stealing the copper. So I don't know if that's something we want to think about either in the code. Is there not an alarm? That's so annoying, but like, I don't know, like is there something we want to think about? Because you invest all of, any person or entity invests all of this and they're trying to do something and someone steals it because they think that there's some value in the metal. And that has been happening more and more as times are tough. So just something to noodle on. No, you probably want to hear from my board and not me, but I just had that little piece of insight, as it seems very frustrating to go through that whole process and be like, all right, it's been 2 days and now they're broken.
That's interesting. If I may, if we're ready, fuel centers. So this is an item that came up about 6 to 9 months ago that city council, and we had heard some inquiries from planning commission as well about the number of gas stations in the city and what are our regulations regarding the entitlements for new gas stations. And so city council initially put a moratorium on new gas stations that were not already in the entitlement process. During that time, planning as well as economic development came back to city council with a couple different updates, and city council extended that moratorium for 6 more months for the creation of this text amendment, this code update.
So is that moratorium still in effect right now?
It is.
Are there applications that have been affected by the moratorium?
No. There was one partial inquiry, but it wasn't a true application. So the 2 applications that are already in the pipeline were not affected. They were allowed to continue to move forward. So this is a map. We actually, our GIS department worked on this. 24 gas stations within the city of Littleton, 20 additional outside in a 1.5 mile buffer of the city.
How does this compare to other?
Yeah.
Like, is that normal?
We talked about this with city council and the economic development group. And I can't remember the numbers off the top of my head, but the economic development consultant that we had did a couple of comparisons. And so we are higher.
We're higher.
Yeah.
So we have more gas stations.
At least the
than-
ones that they compare us to. Yeah.
Okay.
They compare us to other, they're within the metro region, I assume.
Parker and Lakewood that we looked at. So yes, they were metro.
Okay.
Currently, fueling stations are allowed in the neighborhood commercial and corridor mixed zone districts, or commercial zoning districts, as conditional uses. That's what that CS means. So conditional use means that there's greater scrutiny on an item, and it does have to go to plan commission for review and approval. Then the P for under the business industrial districts, that just means permitted. So those items would be administratively reviewed. So this is the current code. So we have direction from city council to change the Ps to CSs so that all gas station inquiries would end up being conditional uses that would have to go before plan commission. The other item that city council tasked us with was to review our standards, our conditions of construction of new gas stations. And that's kind of the same as EVs. That's going to be the main question I'm going to ask you all. And that's where your comment about, well, I think new gas stations should have an EV charger. Like that is something that we could build into the code. And those are the types of brainstorming and ideas and comments that I'm looking for. Just to kind of wrap this part up, this is a map of the city. The purple is the CM and NC, so those are the areas that it's currently a conditional use. The green are the areas that it's currently a permitted use. So all of that will end up becoming purple per the direction of city council with the update. I think it's kind of nice to be able to graphically depict where those areas are.
Does conditional use come with additional staff scrutiny as well? Because planning commission is not quasi-judicial board. They just make recommendations to council. The council can accept or not accept.
So plan commission is actually the deciding body on a conditional use.
Okay.
Oftentimes, you're right, it moves through plan commission to city council. Here, though, the ULUC indicates that they're the deciding body and they have to abide by criteria, right? So they have to look at the criteria. If the criteria are met, then they approve the application. If they feel that a criteria is not met, then they can either continue the item or deny it.
Appeals could go to council, right?
Yes. They can be appealed.
They're considered quasi judicial, right? Planning commission, whereas ESV is advisory.
Yep, exactly. That's kind of the difference why. And about a year or so ago, the city made an effort to differentiate the two bodies so that, they're a commission, which has that quasi judicial decision-making authority versus the board, which is the advisory. So sometimes plan commission still acts as an advisory body, but they do have the power to make decisions on certain items.
Just to clarify, with the current moratorium, am I wrong in thinking that the only reason we would ever lift that moratorium would be if our population grew tremendously or if we expanded our city limits? Because otherwise, aren't we good?
So holding a moratorium is not really moratorium is not really best practice.
Okay.
It's a bad practice.
Yeah.
Moratoriums are by nature designed to be temporary.
Okay.
Change your code to reflect what you want it to reflect. So
Okay.
Yep. So precisely. So let's just say that you largely did not want new gas stations, right? We could change the code instead of the C's to the dash lines. However, there is case law that indicates that we should allow for a use in some location with standards. Otherwise, it's called exclusionary zoning, and we can be sued for exclusionary zoning. So oftentimes, that's why you see, like in a lot of other codes, heavy industrial use only allowed in one district, right? Like something of that nature. So it's not exclusionary, but there are a lot of standards built into it. So that's an option as well.
Are any of the developments that are currently underway kind of depending on, at least from their perspective, gas stations as part of the development to make it successful? Because gas station's bad, but what we saw with Littleton Village was like this development that fell on its face for half a decade and is just now starting to sort of catch back up. And I'm thinking, there's the Costco development and the Enzer properties, and there's Columbine Square, and there's so many of these developments that are meant to be mixed use. And I bet these developers are saying like, hey, we kind of need a gas station in here or no?
So we have two that are currently in the pipeline. One is in that River Park area, the Mineral in Santa Fe, and the other one is on the Costco property. I haven't heard many other inquiries, but that's also one of the rationales for why conditional use was sought, because it's not expressly prohibited. It's actually permitted, but with additional standards is basically what that conditional use requires.
Maybe my question should be, what are the conditional standards that come with that conditional use to?
That's exactly what we're talking about. That's the feedback I'm getting. Yeah, I'm working on.
Back up just a little bit, Scott. So Costco would not have come to Littleton if we wouldn't have allowed them to have a gas station.
It's like a huge.
It's part of their business model. So to your point, there are some developments that would not move forward with, in a city that has a restriction on it, you know? For us, that's not really a big issue because we're done developing almost, yeah. But it would have been a big issue a couple years ago.
Is there a situation where fuel sales in the code is tied to population base? You know, meaning if population grows, you know, we can have more use, but it's set by the number of people who live here.
That could be a good substitute for the moratorium.
Right.
Yeah, I haven't seen too many examples of that. I have seen where there's like a buffer. You know, you would not be able to locate a new fueling station within 1,000 or 100 or 500 or whatever that metric is of an existing station to try to move things out. I've also seen standards where maybe you don't want them exactly on the hard corner because of the traffic impacts. So maybe they have to be just off the hard corner. Yeah, things of that nature. I've seen a lot of that, but I haven't seen the number tied to something per capita, but I haven't done an exhaustive search on that.
But I could see a gas station coming in with a better product and wanting to build in a certain place. Coming in with a better product, and why should we exclude them from our neighborhood?
But in essence, with the changes we're making here, it will really limit that opportunity. So really, it's gonna be hard to bring a gas station to Littleton moving forward. The council said that, you know, with the current saturation we have, there's not a lot of interest or appetite for. You make a good point. It's probably not gonna happen during the coming years.
It may be.
There may be a way.
They could buy someone out down the street.
Oh, yeah, yeah, you could absolutely, or they could, you know, educate council and explain to them why they should change their rule.
Yeah, a redevelopment's not out of the question. It would just be a conditional use, which has, once again, that
But it would
stronger
be,
process.
it wouldn't even be a conditional use if they were to buy an existing station. Yeah.
Well, yeah, still have to.
Oh, really? Just rebranding an existing gas station?
Oh, not if you just flip the name on it, but if you were going to
Add more.
yeah, more pumps or something like that. But no, you're right. If you're basically doing sign face changes, it's a new, and you're doing internal renovations to the building, no, you can do that all day long.
Or you're changing the product that was gonna be in the tanks underground,
Yeah.
That's not gonna get involved. Yeah.
Sorry, I think we were.
He was saying that was a superior product.
Yeah.
You can do that.
Sorry, I was thinking rebuilding the site.
When I was in school for environmental engineering, learning about underground fuel tanks, I learned that like more than half the fuel tanks we have leak that are underground. Do we have any requirements in Littleton for regular checking to make sure they're not leaking, and if they are, remedying that?
So to my knowledge, and I'm not a professional on this, to my knowledge, the new tanks are, per state standard, are double walled. And if one wall leaks, then the alarm gets triggered to say that there's a problem. Now, those are the new tanks. So, and I don't know that everybody was required to remove the old ones and put the new ones in. So it wouldn't surprise me if there were still some old ones floating around out there.
What's the stat? 50%?
That was just,
Probably because so many of them are
I
old.
mean, yeah, you have tanks from the 50s, 60s, 70s, they're just rusted through at some point.
Yeah, and they're not, the newer ones are, the dual wall, but they're also, I think, a plastic or something versus the steel that would rust and, erode basically.
I assume that would be tied more to something like a stormwater permit that would be like managed by the state. As far as like inspections and like, I don't know.
Fuel tanks though, I mean,
Well, that's why oftentimes if a gas station does cease operation, now they're required to pull the tanks because of.
Oh, really? Okay, good.
So, and those are all state standards. Those are not state standards.
But if somebody takes over a gas station like we're talking about, do you have to go through and inspect all of this stuff?
I'm not certain on that. I don't know what the state standard is on that.
That whole name flipping might be a good opportunity to say, if you do any of these changes to your gas station, we'll give you a discount if you put in a supercharger.
I do think underground gas storage tanks are regulated by the Colorado Department of Health and Environment. And so there are there's permitting requirements and they have to prove that the tanks aren't leaking.
And there's likely associated reporting and renewal, like we're having to renew those permits.
But I know that has in the past, it's been a very large problem. Absolutely. Kind of covered these items. So then I was just at kind of that brainstorming or questions that you may have on, some additional standards or regulations pertaining to gas stations.
Did you say at the beginning, and maybe I misheard, but that EV charging stations were regulated in the same way that like fueling stations were, but that is going to be separated and that's kind of already in process?
Yes. Because it's currently the principal use, so those standalone EV charging locations are in the same definition as fuel sales. That's why they call it fuel sales retail rather than gas station now. But we want to pull that out to allow it in more places because the gas stations are only allowed in in 4 districts, right? And not only do we want the EV chargers allowed in greater, but it's also a state requirement as well to have them required. So it just makes sense to pull those out.
So as the code like currently stands, the map that you showed is like applicable to a principal use EV charging setup.
Absolutely. I could go back to that too if you're interested.
And also pulling it out would exempt it from any moratoriums.
We're hoping to run these 2 updates simultaneously or concurrently. So hopefully that's not an issue, but you never know. Sometimes something gets continued because they will be 2 separate agenda items, but hopefully on the same agendas.
Are there EV stations planned for the developments at Mineral or Santa Fe? On that?
So, to a degree, yes, because this gets kind of confusing. There's a separate state code that's basically, I like to refer to it as like the planning one and the building one. So the building code we've already adopted and it indicates, and it has kind of an interesting formula, but that new construction over a certain size, commercial industrial is required to have X number of EV charging stations. And it's based on how many parking spaces they have, or I think it's parking spaces, not building square footage. And then there's also there's 4 different categories. One is like built, put in place. Another one is EV ready. So like the conduits run to the location, but maybe the charger isn't there because they're waiting to see what the need is. So that is all in place now. So the Costco project came in before that code was adopted, but they are putting in 6 or 9 stations. I forget what it is. 6. Okay, thank you. So some people.
Only 6? That feels so small. We have 6 at the brewery.
Yeah, but I don't think there's very many at any Costco.
No,
that's
that's thinking about the
progress.
population that comes there. It's just surprising.
I know.
I didn't
So-
have 6 at that one or 9. And then
In the River Park area, I don't believe that the gas station there has any charging, but the new uses that are being proposed and are being reviewed, they'll have to abide by that new building code that requires X per that calculation, right? So yes, there will be some.
These fuel charging stations, when you put it, let's say EVs become popular again. So Are EV stations gonna become like gas stations? Like you can have so many pumps, people coming in, you can do it so quickly? Is that anyone's vision to have it like that?
So this code, so you could have either, you know, the ones in the parking lot, or this code would allow you to have kind of that fueling center. You know, there's a lot.
Are there gonna be traffic limits then? Like if, I understand, it's gonna be less restrictive for EVs to put them in more locations, but there's still gonna be traffic limitations, like you said, having a fuel station, like not on the corner of the block. Is that still something you can restrict?
We could certainly talk about it, yeah. So, oftentimes, like with gas stations, especially, certain ones that are a little more higher volume, you worry about that stacking.
Right, yeah.
So oftentimes EVs right now, you don't worry about stacking as much because it takes a while. You might pull up and it's like, how long is this person going to be there? I do know that, you know, the technology continues to evolve and they are working on chargers that are substantially quicker. Not quite as quick as a gas pump, of course, but that is something that people are working on, which may create new challenges in the future.
It's much more expensive. So the higher levels of charge and the faster it is, the more energy it's going to take and the more expensive it is for like the electricity connection and to install the physical charger itself. But even those like superchargers and fast chargers, it's still not the same as when you pump gas. Like the technology really is not there yet.
How long does it take? It's like 20 minutes.
Like 45 minutes to an hour.
Depending on how big your battery is.
It's a Hummer.
Yeah.
It's still not.
It's gonna take a bit.
Well, and that's why having them in parking lots is so nice, because whatever the parking lot belongs to, that's where you are while your car's charging. Most of the time.
Here, right?
Exactly. Beer, shopping at King Supers.
Why do you think I put them in? Gotta hang around for a
It's
bit.
not full yet. I guess I'll have
Exactly. Guess I'll have another.
Not here, eat the food. We don't drink and drive.
Yeah.
Good. True.
And
The
a beer.
person that came with you is imbibe.
There you go.
So they probably won't see the same volume at the near term, maybe the medium term, as gas stations see, the volume of cars.
I think that's the case. And the other nice thing about ULUC, et cetera, is they are living documents. We see a change in pattern, et cetera, and we can come back with another update.
Well, I think the other factor is that people are actually charging their EVs at their house. So
Yeah.
I have an electric car. And we had a EV or a level 2 charger installed, and you just plug it in overnight, right? And then you're ready to go.
Then you get lower rates with
Yeah,
the
you get
utility
lower rate.
when
So
you do it at night, and you get, some states do tax breaks when you install
no,
it at home.
we did get a test rate way back when.
Well, and superchargers aren't terribly great for your car anyway.
Well, for some reason Costco saw there was a profit to put 6 in them.
Well, they were
required to.
they were required to put a minimum of 2 at the time, and they chose to put more than that in. Now, if they were to come in today, they'd be required to put a lot, just because of the new state code that we adopted over the summer.
It's like,
That was the ratio of like, how many parking lots?
100?
Yeah, it's parking spots.
it was something like.
There were a lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just because of how big Costco was. It was the.
These charging stations are part of their pump islands and stuff.
No, they're probably just in the parking lot at the edge.
Yeah, because the fueling, the gas station is across the east-west access road. And then the charging is on the same parcel as the building itself.
You like park, plug in, and you go shopping.
Like think of where the tire center is, that kind of stuff.
I think I know the answer to this question, but I'll ask it anyway. I assume there's no, in the code, nothing tied to like pricing around like what, like, do you have to, almost going back to Scott's equity point, like, is there a requirement to keep pricing below a certain level, or how you charge for the electricity?
Yeah, so that is not something that we are proposing to add. I'm not sure what the model code says on that, if that's a possibility or not. I have to do a little more digging.
Yeah, I assume it's not in the code. I mean, so I work for Breckenridge Brewery and we installed EV charging stations there, and they were like, you can do whatever you want, set the pricing what you want.
Yeah,
Like, okay.
I
Yeah,
did the
an
same.
example where the city gets involved with.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was thinking, that it
Yeah,
probably.
because it's like gas stations, you can't really do.
Yeah, we wouldn't be able to regulate.
And none of them, I mean, I feel like most EV charging stations don't tend to be very expensive anyway, so maybe it's not an issue.
There are definitely some that are more expensive than others.
Yes.
But your app will tell you that, so you know what to expect.
Right.
Yeah, I installed a EV charging station, at a previous job, and it was free for a long time. And then I bought an EV car and I told them they had to charge me for something because I wasn't going to get a free benefit from them. So I
Honest of you.
I mean, then the way we do it is like we offer it free to employees, but then if you're a, guest coming to eat lunch, then you have to pay.
How much does it cost to charge roughly a car?
Keep it so I was looking at this the other day. I forget what I actually charge per kilowatt hour, but it's basically our average charge is just under 2 hours and you pay like $2 to $4.
That's probably good.
And it's a level 2 charger.
Level
So
two.
that wouldn't be
Three
a
is
full charge
even
for your
more
car.
expensive.
It would be like a quarter of a charge maybe.
We're about to start charging a fee on the 6 city chargers that are right here.
Yeah, I did a big deep dive. The average for the state of Colorado ranges from 14 cents to like 28 cents per kilowatt hour, which is still a lot cheaper than gas.
And I think the way I said it for the breweries, like the first 2 hours is like super cheap. And then if you stay over 2 hours, it like doubles. With the idea being you came for lunch.
Out of here, yeah.
Bye. Yeah.
You need your
Like,
table
well,
and your spot.
and if you're just topping off your car and you're just sitting there and you're not actually charging anymore,
I
like
can walk it.
you're just taking a spot.
Trail.
Rotate.
Yeah.
People to move.
Yeah, exactly.
People can use the spot.
Yeah.
They're
And
not endless EV spots, as we know.
yes.
It's a discussion.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for your.
Yeah, super interesting.
That's great. Thank you, Jared.
Appreciate it. All right, well, and if you have other ULUC, questions in the future, I was work with Laura and I can come back and join you in a future meeting.
Thank you very much.
Oh, I should probably get out of my presentation.
Is the next thing our future stuff? Okay. Yeah, so Laura and I talked about just what we want to prioritize and how we want to prioritize it, and if we want to do like subgroups within our committee, which does require attendance because it's hard to have a subgroup when there's just 2 of us or 3 of us at the meeting. And if we want to do those subgroups, like subcommittees, do people want to focus on certain things? Because I know that, we all have different interests, but some of them overlap. And so maybe it would be more efficient to do subcommittees, like subcommittees focused on the waste management issue.
Or if it was like based on the way you were interested in engagement. So you're interested in community engagement or you're interested in writing policy. So we talked about either of those mechanisms. So maybe it's multiple topics with like one avenue, or maybe it's by topic, but we kind of wanted to see what people thought about that. Just in terms of making it a little bit more engaging, because I know everyone has a broad variety of interests, and environmental stewardship can mean a lot to a lot of people.
Would you mind bringing up the action plan while we talk about it, please?
And also just to give people a little bit of background on like precedent for something like subcommittees for a group like this, when I was on the Next Generation Advisory Committee, we had a sustainability subcommittee, a DEI subcommittee. I think there was like maybe one other one. And what it looked like for that group, and it can look different, but we had our normal monthly meeting, and then there was an additional like 1 hour subcommittee meeting. And people didn't have to be on the subcommittees. It was all volunteer, but people had, like I was super interested in being on the sustainability subcommittee. And so I, for an additional hour each month, met with I think 2 or 3 other people that were interested in sustainability, and we discussed like what that looked like for Next Generation Advisory Committee. So that's just what it looked like for NGAC a few years ago. I will say it took additional city staff. We talked about that because it wasn't one of the things that was talked about is having doing subcommittees, but almost having like a partner so that you can talk and talk about a specific topic without it being a meeting and requiring staff support to run that meeting and have an agenda and all that. But it was also during the time of COVID, so it was all remote, but we had a Zoom meeting and someone from staff would attend. And that's just kind of what it looked like at the time. So again, it doesn't have to look exactly like that if we decide to pursue that path, but I found it beneficial for NGAC because granted, we were a much more like broad committee that was kind of like, what do we want to talk about? And so people kind of got to deep dive on specific issues.
And then we could also carve out time in meetings, or if people want to work outside of meetings, it just has to be 2 or less people for Colorado meeting laws. So that's the other caveat.
I guess it'd be a subcommittee.
It'd be a subcommittee of 2 if that's the way if people want to structure it that way, or.
Right, or we have to have one of you guys join us.
And it needs to be open to the public. Sorry about, the boxes are just,
They're back, they're not as,
Zoom in.
yeah,
I'm
not as obtrusive as
They're so bad.
have been.
IT has no idea what to do with it. It's their hours. These are the highest priorities that are listed. I don't know if there's a different part of the plan that you're hoping to go. Is there a different part of the plan you were thinking?
No, that's exactly what I had.
So I guess one of the things that came up, I guess, unfortunately, at a meeting that I was not able to attend because I had parent-teacher conferences, was the interest in like looking at the single hauler, that contracted hauler, or I can't remember what you called it. That was a really nice way to put it. Anyway.
Contracted hauler?
Might have been that. I think it was something different. Anyway, it's okay. But looking at that and then looking at outreach and, going out into the community, and some of us, that's definitely not what we want to do, but others of us might want to do that. And that would be, something that we could look at in the subcommittees.
Single hauler in particular.
Well, that for sure would be one, because it would involve community outreach. Because we think our biggest issue is making sure that we educate the public as to why it's an important thing and how it's going to help them before we just do it and have a lot of backlash. And so that requires a lot of engagement with the community, and not everybody wants to do that. So that might be a good subcommittee of people that would like to do that. And, how can we do that? And what does that look like? And talking to, is it transportation that does that? That goes to all the things and.
It'll probably be a lot of work with the city communications department.
Yeah. But that's kind of where that came out of, was it seems like some people do want to do that, other people don't. Would that be a better thing to have as a subcommittee instead of an entire board focused on how do we do community outreach on that so that we can move forward?
I think it'd be super interesting to have a conversation with the city communications department about effective messaging around something like single hauler. Because I don't want the angst again. Like this last election cycle when I was just watching the backlash politics happen. And I don't want that with single hauler. And it's out there and we know it's out there. And so we just have to step lightly. I want to be successful and not counterproductive, which is a real possibility. The council just gets up there and says, sweet, single hauler. The next day, it's like, all right.
The density conversation. We don't want, which is again, why we have to be proactive and educate instead of just doing it. So, but I know that that's not everyone's forte. That's why it was
We can,
interest.
staff can provide the expertise if we just talk with them about what the. I'm surprised to see, we've actually made some real progress on some of that stuff. Gas inventory work here. Got all people out of all cars. No, there's some stuff on there that we've had some impact on.
Definitely.
I mean, I'm not gonna be, well, I'm assuming I'm not gonna be part of the next iteration of the board. So my perspective doesn't necessarily carry as much weight as the new board members' perspectives will, but.
It carries just as much weight until April.
Okay. I mean, I'm always all about.
Or if you continue,
Or if I continue.
then it will carry just as much weight
2029.
for the next several years.
Community supported agriculture at the museum has just been hanging out there as like an amazing community opportunity for a long, long time. And I think it would be such a feather in the cap of Littleton to have something like that. And the rationale has always, I mean, for me, we all know a lot of acts of dispersed agriculture and industrial agriculture. But beyond that, if you pull that off, you get a really important new constituency invested in a historical museum beyond just Friends of the Littleton Library and Museum, which is an aging booster club. And a lot of those community is to fund artists and so on. If we gave them some real buy-in, it would be amazing. And the only reason I ever heard to not do it, which to my mind was I don't feel like it, was it doesn't what was it? It obstructs the historical mission of the museum, something like that. I'm like, no, it doesn't.
It's farming, that's the whole point of it.
Certainly there's we run into things like water and so on, but and we dipped the toe as a board, right? Because we had what's his name? That really
Starting with D.
nice guy. Yeah,
Damien, thank you.
Yeah, I mean,
Awesome.
yeah, and that guy had so much knowledge and enthusiasm and connections and so on. I think it would be really cool just to give it a try. So that's my 2 cents.
But again, that would be another good example of if we wanted to pursue that, but not every, like, you could lead that subcommittee. You know what I mean? So.
That's my vote.
That's why
you
you can't
involve
leave.
ourselves pretty closely as much as we are allowed to in the ULUC. Because that's really important for a lot of sustainability. I mean, just a crossroads for a lot of stewardship stuff in the community. And working on community reporting there. That's the key. A lot of that stuff is important to have listed as a top line priority, but it's also a million different projects over a million different years that people out of part. The community supported agriculture at the museum is a street, concrete, achievable.
As a single hauler.
So,
And composting.
Single hauler real fast.
Yes.
So the Tri-Cities, have a relationship. And then, of course, we added Centennial to the South Metro Diversion Study, Waste Diversion Study. And an upcoming meeting of the Tri-Cities Joint Councils, one of the topics they'll be discussing is that waste diversion study and some opportunities, see if there's some synergy to do it larger than just Littleton. Because the more people you have involved when you go to a single hauler, the better rates you're gonna get. So which could ease some of the concerns that come up for people. But just as an example, another benefit that could be available next week, there'll be a ribbon cutting for Commerce City. Their solid waste collection fleet for their single hauler, it will be all electric starting next week.
So cool.
So that same provider is the single hauler for the city of Sheridan. And Sheridan can't get all electric because they're just too small. So if we were to partner with Sheridan, that'd be enough for them to go all electric for both of us.
And the only thing that's awesome, the only thing I would say is back to John's quote that he pulled out, that trying to do too many things at once, we get frozen.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying that when it opens up additional opportunities,
Yes.
right?
But as long as it doesn't open up additional years that we have to
No,
wait.
exactly right. But one of the real benefits of single hauler is decreased pollution, air pollution in your city. So instead of having, 5 trucks on my street every week, you'd have, 2 recycling, maybe 3 if you went to organics, recycling and trash, right?
Yeah, times 14, because that's how many we have.
But there'd be no diesel emissions if they were
Right.
electric.
That would be amazing.
So you went from, 5+ diesel trucks to 0 diesel trucks.
That would be amazing.
And
Absolutely.
Commerce City starts that next week. And Sheridan can't get that because they're not enough users. So
Now, did Commerce City just dictate that, or
Yeah, and their contract.
Did they experience any backlash?
what happened there?
When did they, I don't know, were you there when they went single hauler?
Well, no, the city's had single haulers since the early 2000s.
Oh, so this is really just them going all electric.
So when Sheridan went with single hauler a couple of years ago, the city manager been there for a long time, he said it was the toughest year of his life. It was tough. Inglewood, they almost wanted to recalls just.
They didn't
When they were
get it.
talking about it. Yeah, they didn't get it. Yeah. So
Or
they're,
Nevada, there was backlash
so
too.
communicating it correctly is definitely the way to go. Building buy-in and those kind of things, and having citizen advocates, that there really is a strategy. And to Scott's point, we have some really cool things happening in our communications and marketing team. And I think that adding that at some point in the coming year to familiarize yourself with what those tools are and how you can best utilize them for all the things you want to accomplish, would probably be a worthwhile, presentation.
So would it be good to meet with the communications department?
Well, and I'll just add, so Public Works, as a part of the communications department, there's gonna be a new position that'll be dedicated to Public Works outreach. So that'll be huge for us, and so the sustainability stuff will be folded into that, so I think when that person gets hired, well.
It's open for recruitment right now.
Well, I think they're closed this week, so.
It's still open today because I was talking to a candidate about it.
But anyway, yeah, so we're hoping within the next
Full-time.
few weeks to have somebody on.
That's great.
Well, it would be lovely to meet with all these people ASAP to figure out what can we do right now so that we can get this going.
And we can definitely
That
bring
the
that
council-
to this.
The council, there is energy on this from the council.
Yes.
And support, so.
Yes. And I know there's support from the community as well, but there's definitely, like you said, the trash companies get freaked out and then they start to.
That's actually sometimes a bigger component than like a vocal minority, is that these
Right, but I
haulers.
tell you, that vocal minority can sure.
I mean, they
Pass
can,
stuff.
so it's important to do the community outreach, but we also probably need to do a lot of hauler engagement
Yeah.
as well, and there's also a lot of other factors, so we're also looking at hauler licensing, because even if we were to go single hauler tomorrow, you can opt out if you are a commercial entity. If you are a multifamily complex, 7+ units, you are considered a commercial entity. If you have a license and there are certain provisions in the license, it doesn't limit the number of companies, but because you say, you must report tonnage, you must have oops tags when someone does contaminates their recycling, right? It limits the amount of companies that are able to
New
meet.
vehicles
those.
must be electric.
Yeah, I don't know if we need a license, but yeah, so it means that it would limit those companies from the commercial and multifamily perspective, but if you, that's why other cities have stacked that in Colorado with single hauler, because that's like a first step of saying, okay, we're gonna limit the number of haulers, and then it also probably limits the number of bids you're gonna get with a single hauler, because it's likely gonna be that smaller list anyhow.
Yeah.
And then that's the way you can limit the number for the entire community, because you cannot force, according to Colorado law, any commercial entity to opt into a city contract. They are allowed to. That also allows HOAs to be exempt. And so that's also what I'll need help with if there's interest. And I don't know a lot of the contacts at HOAs in Littleton, that's not super public, they might have their own waste contracts, and that's a whole other beast, but they would still be beholden to a hauler license, but they would not to single hauler unless they want to. And so that's a whole other piece that's actually just super confusing.
If we do it right, it'll be competitive and it'll be attractive and people will wanna opt in and all the other advantages. But for example, the hauler that serves South Park HOA right now is the same hauler that's Commerce City's gonna be lubricating with next week. So if they offered a rate, which they very well could, that was, $18 a month for waste and recycling. Or $24 a month for waste, recycling and organics, that's not available to any of us right now.
Right.
I think it'd be really interesting to do a deep dive into what we could potentially require in a license. Like if we, starting with licensing, which I think sounds like could be done faster, right, with less backlash. Could we require EP trucks. Obviously, that feels like a huge stretch, but I think it's a good example of like,
one company in the state of Colorado that can do that, so then you essentially be.
yeah.
Single hauler
Your
through
own-
licensing.
Your own.
It works perfectly.
But then, you know, like what, so then,
Push
you know,
the,
there's
push the
the-
other haulers to.
Yeah, or, you know, and if that's, you know, that's the extreme, what are some of the kind of,
Special contract with the EV company, actually.
With that,
yeah.
but yeah,
No, with the one that does the waste hauling trucks.
there's more than one, so there's, yeah.
Yeah, the hub in Colorado
So
though.
the excuses that other haulers use for not going that way, they would have less excuses if they wanted to do business here.
Right. Yeah, that's true. So I mean, I don't know. I would love to know the answer to that. Are we like legally allowed to do that? I don't.
Yeah, or like, you know, and if we're not, or if that is too extreme, what are some intermediary requirements that we could have with that licensing? Like, how far for reporting could we go? How far for some of the other things that we could ask for? But I think that would be a really interesting kind of study session to be like, what could we ask in the license? As part of the license.
So then as part of the extended producer responsibility, there's like reimbursement money for education and outreach. And of course, I've had like 3 conversations this week with the producer responsibility organization and the other cities, and they still have not determined the amount per household that that's gonna be. So then we don't know exactly like what we can do with that, but some of that could include having workshops, or like we can go back through the state program to do hauler engagements. They could help us with that, or do the research on licensing, or we could have a committee on this board that does a deep dive into the licensing, because I have a bunch of examples.
Or like whatever's required by CAA, right, the extended producer responsibility organization. You know, if they're requiring certain things, can that be what's required in the license?
Right.
Like, that seems like a pretty one for one, like, look, if we wanna get state funding for these particular programs and you wanna haul our waste, you have to comply with, you know, reporting XYZ that's required by the Circular Action Alliance.
So they don't require.
Is it just tonnage or is it more than that?
They don't require like that, those specifics, like all they're running is how to reimburse all Coloradans for recycling. And it is a administrative fun time for them right now. So they got their initial plan approved by the Colorado Department of Public Health and the Environment in December. And so they have 6 months to implement, and they're starting with communities that have contracted hauling, but they're also working with the haulers. So the ones that can figure out their tonnage will get that part reimbursed, and they're supposed to pass that along to residents. That transparency and that accountability looks very different depending on how the community is structured. So it's possible that like all of a sudden, one of you might see one of your bills in like December of next year, strike out recycling, and
They would be reimbursing the hauler themselves.
yeah, for an open market, but
Unless you
they,
have a single hauler.
yes, but they're gonna start with the biggest ones, and who knows how long it'll take for them to figure that out. But they're starting with the most organized system, so that they won't necessarily provide any guidance, because they have to, according to like Colorado law, not get into the nuances of like free market in terms of saying this would be what we would recommend. We can go back through the state's technical assistance, and they can help us craft best practices for a hauler license or for single hauler, but we can't do it through the nonprofit, because they're also a national nonprofit, so they serve Oregon and they serve Washington. So they have like weird regulations that prohibit certain things, but the state's also trying to get all of our guidelines more of the same between all of these companies. Like they're trying to make all of these pieces fit together. So with all of these moving pieces, like it's confusing as someone that's like steeped in this. And so how can we like take this a step back and say, yeah, how are we phasing it out? Could we do that? I would love to figure that out. I have no idea if I could require EV trucks and a license and do a whole loophole, but sounds cool.
So as far as agenda and priority setting, it sounds like the detail work related to the waste aversion study and maybe stuff to do with the ULUC, which is plenty.
Yeah. You see on its own.
Are y'all interested in subcommittees?
I think what we don't want to do is leave people's priorities out.
How many total people are on the
It's supposed to be 7.
There's 6 here tonight, yeah.
Yeah. And that's the most we've had since June.
Since June. Andrew, the other Andrew. Ah,
One too many.
what's he been up to?
It's a good question.
Nice guy.
I know.
He's okay.
Ghosted.
So if a subcommittee is 2 people, there's no like,
Well, it doesn't have to be.
but 2 or less is then you get by the open meeting laws.
Well, we could also say if you want it to be more people, then you would leave some time during meetings for y'all to work. And then maybe you would have like, if there's like a waste group, maybe in the waste group, someone's interested, 2 of you are interested in policy and 2 is interested in outreach and education. And like, then y'all could work together outside of the meeting and come back together as the 4 of you and really dig in. Like, there could be different ways that we think about it. I don't think more meetings is necessarily what we all want. But I'm happy to do more meetings if y'all want, but,
No one more meetings.
We did more meetings when we first started.
Also see at the time if it's feels appropriate. Decide how.
and there's also all the climate risk and vulnerability assessment work, which is ramping up now too. And
Well, there's also, I mean, whatever meeting, October or something, we talked about us being involved, whether it's as a committee or as individuals, I guess. I mean, you sent out an email to that effect, this, about the being involved in the Littleton Boulevard sub-area plan, but plans will come up, I mean, we should have a stakeholder representative on any plan that's getting done in this city. I don't care what kind of plan it is. I mean, it should all have environmental stewardship embedded in it. It's a plan, it's a public process. They're gonna have public meetings. We would be part of the stakeholder group, even if it's one of us, but I mean, that should be an ongoing part of our commitment to the city to embed that in every plan that comes out.
It would be nice to be proactive there instead of just hearing community people going, why is there a 10-foot wide road?
like
There
our
used to be a trail.
processes, right? So like, no matter what you're doing, there are these things that you have to do and think about for sustainability. Maybe it's talk to ESB, or there's some type of like longer term plan that outlives all of us, right? Where there's a very clear process that's like not personal, it's not political, it just is. And that could be something that y'all help with, right? That,
Like the transportation plan, right? Or the Littleton downtown.
or like looking at how the city goes about planning processes and recommendations for how we need to look at sustainability more holistically, right?
Yeah.
But maybe some of you hear that and your eyes glaze over and you're like, I want to talk about waste. So I don't want to make anyone do anything they aren't excited by.
It's also probably, well, so let me back up. I think that this board should have a very healthy relationship with this council. I think there's a lot of political alignment there, and because we're an advisory board to council, I think we should leave some bandwidth for speaking with and hearing from council about what they want the board to go to work on. Hey, we need some cover for this vote that's coming up. Can you get us recommendations or something like that? And we should some of that work as well. Council's, their workflow is different than what ours is going to look like, and something might come up for them they want our help with. So,
How could we work with you on that, or do you have any thoughts on what that could look like?
Is it too soon?
I know.
Oh, yeah, is it too soon? I'm still learning. You're like, this is too much.
Get all in and trying to learn how the boards work in collaboration with the council, but I think you're right that there is a lot of alignment, and in other meetings, the question has come up, what is the perspective of the Environmental Stewardship Board? So this is a group that the council is looking to provide that, both eyes, ears, and communication between, so. Yeah, at this point, I don't have, I'm listening and taking it all in, but I think that we will be a strong partner.
In February, the council has their retreat, their annual retreat. And then there'll be some follow-up items that come out of that, and then there'll be a follow-up with council at a study session. I believe it's in early April. So if you wanted, in your April meeting or the May meeting, we could do a presentation on what council's priorities are and what they're working on. So you could say, oh, hey, these are all things we wanna take a bite at as far as giving advice and whatnot. And really, you could do that every year, you know, say, hey, what's changed, what's going on? Cause, you know, I think to Scott's point, you know, that alignment with council will really help. I mean, one of the reasons why we have the stewardship action plan is because it was so well aligned with council.
And I appreciate the naming that all of the plans that we're looking at, that environmental stewardship should be a part of those and thinking about them. And I know, you know, the Littleton corridor planning is about to get started in deeper ways, and this is going to be an important element of that. So yeah, it's gonna be continual conversations.
So the two big plans this year, the Littleton Boulevard sub-area plan, that you just mentioned, and then the transportation master plan update. And so both of those have opportunity for at least a single representative, and then collectively you could also, you know, feedback. So they'll be asking for a stakeholder or representative from you to be part of their stakeholder group.
A lot. It's a lot of work.
It is.
I mean, I'm just saying, like,
It is.
Easy
that's a
peasy.
full plate for this board.
Well, not to pile on, but it was just occurring to me today, thinking about this single hauler and waste diversion, and something that, you know, Hannah and I were talking about a few meetings back about this recycling event. I mean, like a one-day citywide, you know, all-encompassing recycling event. You know, just from a personal level, you know, I'm sitting here coordinating with one person on scrap metal, another on paint, another on electronics, another on Christmas lights. You know, I'm trying to be a good steward. I've got, you know, ski equipment, you know.
I hear you.
It's
A lot of weird sections of my home right
right,
now.
but, you know, so I go here, I go here, I go here, and I think a lot of us wanna do the right thing, and if we make it easy as a community, like, you know, don't throw your stuff away, save it for this one event, and we will have, you know, all your paint and all your electronics and all your medicine and all your, you know, I think it behooves us when we're talking about this single hauler, you know, that includes the above and beyond everything else that doesn't go into recycling and composting and what you don't want to go into the trash can. I just feel like we would be remiss if we didn't think about how to help the city be more sustainable in their recycling. So
I think that's another argument to go single hauler. So when I was at Commerce City, we had single hauler, right? And part of the contract was required them to have two events, just like you're talking about, where people could bring all their waste and
Collection events.
yeah, collection events. So right now, if we did that, we'd have to probably hire a company to do, but we could do that, right? But I think it folds in nicely to single hauler.
And it's one of the things we could use the EPR funds for.
Yeah.
I don't seem to hear much about subcommittees necessarily, but maybe I honestly just want to make sure that nobody feels like my stuff's not being heard or my stuff's not a priority. And other things are being pushed on me and I'd rather do something else. And if anybody feels that way, then that was the purpose of a subcommittee. So please send something
Or email.
or email. Yeah, email us and let us know. But otherwise, I'm thinking no subcommittees and we just keep going with those things that we've just talked about.
And I don't know The climate risk and vulnerability assessment, that's kicking off this year, and so I'm gonna invite, if y'all wanna be part of the comprehensive workshop series, but I'm also planning to have the consultant, they're scheduled to present to y'all 2 times, at the beginning and at the end. I don't know if we want a certain amount of cadence of updates in between, like what that involvement and interest is from y'all, and what that, is something that.
How long is that total process expected to take? A year? More or less?
About 18 months.
Maybe beginning, middle, end.
Yeah, I was saying more in the middle. Pretty good.
Okay. Yeah, that's good to know. And then the other thing is that next month, ICLEI, who's been doing the climate modeling and projections, is gonna come to y'all with a proposal and have y'all make a decision and a recommendation for when I go to study session April to adopt those goals, which are looking out to 2050. So using the 2023 inventory to say, okay, we could get as close to net zero as possible. What does that look like? But then when we break it down, that's really saying every single home has to have a heat pump. How realistic is that? And I think that's a conversation we're going to have. So I'm gonna probably send some information ahead of time with some really scary looking data and charts in case you're interested. But then she's gonna come, and she's virtual. So she's gonna come virtually, but we'll still meet here in person, and it's gonna kind of come to, I hope that y'all can come to a consensus of what we wanna recommend ultimately as the goals to model to council, which will dictate a lot of that data driven side of the house. So she's planning to come next month with those models and ask those questions. If y'all have any questions or want me to provide any other information before that, let me know.
Does anybody here plan to be involved with the transportation master plan? So I think that's a good opportunity for us.
Yeah, there will be an opportunity for that. It hasn't been advertised or anything yet, so.
We're still but we will ask for a representative from this to be on the.
Well, maybe we'll be back up at 7 by then, so spread the love a little more. Big commit. So do we feel okay for, like, I don't know how much time the person's gonna take next time, but
Yeah, what else?
with having somebody from the marketing communications-ish department and come talk to us about what we can do and what they can do to start being proactive on spreading the word about the benefits of.
If I could, you might leave it somewhat open-ended and ask them to come introduce the things that they're doing and how they're evolving.
Okay.
And then you'll hear some of the stuff they're doing. Littleton, or whatever. So you'll hear what they're doing, and there might be something you go, that's it, or oh yeah, okay, whatever, as opposed to telling them what you want to hear about, because you might miss some opportunities.
And then, for those of you who know Mary Danzer, the city forester, she's back with the city of Littleton. And her and Diana, the manager of grounds, open space and natural resources, are coming in March. And they're gonna introduce a little bit about what they're doing, but they also wanna hear as like a closed loop, what those recommendations were for South Suburban for that accountability as they go and think about those negotiations in the next year, since their executive director at South Suburban is getting up to speed. So like, just to think even more ahead in March, that's gonna be part of the meeting, not the whole meeting. And so that's also something that could be helpful to like reorient yourself with, or if someone wants to meet with me and talk about it, I'm happy to walk through it, because I know not everyone was there on this board for that, because that was the end of March 2025, and they had a executive director leave and a new one come, and so it's been a whole.
So they still haven't renegotiated the contract between Littleton.
We actually have been exchanging stuff, and I would say now we're actually on track probably to have an agreement ready for council's review by late spring this year, maybe even early summer, late spring at worst, early summer.
You all know if any of the priorities this board
Absolutely
were part of the negotiation.
I'm driving that.
Do we get to see it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, we want to make sure that we have incorporated if there are other ideas, but yeah, absolutely. So, you know, where we're at right now is they've given us, you know, the template that they used for their agreement with Lone Tree, and it incorporates a lot of things that are wonderful and some things we hadn't even thought about. And then it doesn't include things we do want, especially when it comes to sustainability. But we've already been talking about it and they understand what's coming. And so we've built this kind of landing spot that we can all move forward together.
Awesome. So what's the timeline on us being able to see it? That would
that
be
fit into the
after
March meeting?
council or before council?
Yeah, so it'd be before council,
Okay.
because council wants to hear that you guys have seen it and what your input is. Time gets away from me sometimes.
No.
But
What is time?
maybe April.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So if y'all talk to Diana, they talked to Diana and Mary in March to be able to get, at the beginning of March, to get them up to speed or clarify anything about those recommendations that y'all had, would that be
Sure.
adequate amount of time so that they're looped into the
Yeah.
operating agreement?
Yeah, and I think that I hope that you're gonna go, yes, when you hear the
I hope
idea.
so too. Thank you.
I mean, I think anything will be more robust than what
Then
was
we'll
there.
be- From what, 19th? Yeah, whenever it
Low
was. I love it. Thank you, Mike, for doing it.
Yeah. Well, and I'll also say, I've only been here for 2.5 years, but I have watched the relationship between Littleton and South Suburban, you know, fluctuate, and we're in a really good place, especially, so they, new executive director, new deputy executive director, and then for the first time, they've assigned the deputies to different cities, so we have the executive director and a deputy that are assigned to Littleton, and we have their, you know, really good relationship, and so this is the perfect time to be going in agreement. I'm so glad we didn't do it 2 years ago. We wouldn't have been able to accomplish everything. And really the work that this board has done has been awesome. And the work that our council's done has been awesome. And so things are coming together perfectly to hopefully help us have, you know, we don't want an agreement that's gonna be in place unchanged for 40 years. That's not the goal. What we do want
Right.
is gonna allow us to celebrate the good that's happening each year, right? And we don't have that today, so it's gonna be good.
Awesome. Thank
And
you.
I'm also talking with them about, how they're gonna be involved in the climate risk and vulnerability assessment in terms of like a technical working group so that they can understand like that side of, you know, climate preparedness, mitigation, adaptation, and maybe that looks like native plants, fire suppressants, like all of that as part of the conversation. So I'm having that first conversation with them actually this week and hoping to get them on board and excited about it so that they'll participate with the rest of the regional partners I have on board. That's also exciting. They seem receptive to it.
Yay.
So who knows?
So do we feel like we've got our agenda set, at least for a lot of our agendas set for the next few months?
Yeah, and I mean,
Seems like we
there's.
need to write this down.
Well, fortunately, it's being recorded. So if we have to go back and listen, we can.
If there's anything anyone wants to add at any point, or you can always email Gretel and myself and say, hey, I actually really want this thing on the agenda. We can put it on there. Like you have that power as a board member, and I know no one really uses it, but I just wanted to remind everyone that if you're like, oh, I actually remember hearing this thing that Jared mentioned, and I want to hear more about this thing with the ULUC and, you know, that type of thing, like let us know and we can see what you do as well.
But you'll reach out to marketing and.
Yes, I'll reach out to the communications department about next month, and we have grounds and forestry coming in March, and then we can also circle back in March with something else. And I'm actually thinking April or May is like the first climate risk and vulnerability, as I'm sort of making that plan with a consultant to really get that early buy-in from y'all.
Okay, well, if Mike's April and we're getting training in April,
Meeting with council.
That might be.
but at that one meeting, we have Colleen's coming back to train new people.
Oh, right. That might
That's
be
a full
May.
agenda,
Yeah.
so maybe May.
And then we also we have the opportunity to do another study session with
Right.
council next year. And so I don't know if y'all wanna do in the fall, something like single hauler, where you do some type of deep dive. After we've done some more hauler licensing research, or if there's another topic y'all are excited about, and that's something y'all wanna just think about as we go into all of these different topics, cause we did that one on South Suburban last year, and March will be a full year since then, so that we have a opportunity to realign with council and then figure out what makes sense as a study session, deep dive, or recommendations.
Could we do a little bit of a deep dive on licensing maybe in February, or is that too late? Do we want that to happen?
Like next month,
Yeah.
like for a study session with council next month?
Well, no, not necessarily next month, but just us. I don't know. Is that too much?
Like add it to one of the agenda items.
Yeah.
Just talk about it as a board.
And just to get some ideas going and, cause
Well, we can put it on the agenda and see how long, cause it depends on what y'all wanna hear from the climate modeling, like what if you all have
It
this
might be a lot.
consensus immediately? In which case it could go super quick, cause she has all the data, but if you want her to explain the nuances of, cause she's gonna go over each transition element, so if we get to this many reductions, this means this many heat pumps, this many electric vehicles, this many people transitioning from walking to biking to get to this goal, this many like increased tree canopy, and what that adds to our, like, reduces from the carbon emissions. So it's very technical.
Okay.
So it depends on how deep y'all wanna go. You could say, we saw the document before, we get it, we want this thing, and that's it.
Maybe just add it as like an optional if time allows.
I'll just put it on the agenda because we can cover it if it's on there, but we can't
That'll be
cover it
three
if it's not
things.
on there.
that is kind of a lot of things.
Yeah.
Two
Yeah.
things for your agenda potentially outside of meetings, is the mayor will be doing a mayoral proclamation on Earth Day. So if you want to attend the meeting that night, and you can say that you'll accept the proclamation, take a picture with the council, that kind of stuff, and we can use it for social media to increase awareness of the Environmental Stewardship Board and the partnership with council in that regard. And then Laura's working on a potential table at the Earth Day event downtown. If you want to join her and hang out and celebrate Earth Day together.
You're more than welcome.
Love it.
I'll let y'all know. That's, it's usually coordinated with Tiffany, who runs the Merchants Association.
Juniper Mercantile.
Juniper Mercantile. She runs this event, and so we're looking at how we can support and partner and help bring more amplification to an event that exists and is already successful. Is sort of the.
Is that actually on Earth Day?
This is Saturday.
It's
after.
on
Saturday
April
after?
25th. It's April 25th.
But the proclamation is actually on Earth Day.
That will be, yeah.
At the council
Is
meeting.
that the Tuesday?
Because
It's a Tuesday.
Yeah. But the 25th will be the event, and I'll definitely be there, and so will Aiden Lawton, the Tri-Cities Green Business Coordinator. I was saying green. Yeah, so I've been working with him on what that looks like in terms of how we can help amplify that event. So also working with comms for that too.
Lovely. Okay, any updates from anybody? I have nothing, as usual.
Yeah, cookies.
I did have cookies, that was my update.
I'm pregnant due in March, so I might miss the March meeting. It's like 3 or 4 days, my due date's like 3 or 4 days after the meeting, so. So I could be here, I don't know.
Can be here and uncomfortable.
Huh? I haven't decided yet. If I do, I will for sure not volunteer for any leadership positions, but TBD.
Understood.
Yeah, I know, I'm very on the fence. So.
It
I
wasn't
guess-
that hard to be vice chair.
No, but. And I think I could pull off being a member still. Reasonably.
Baby while you're here.
Yeah.
She did bring her baby a couple years.
I'm good, I'm in.
Yeah.
Thanks. Anybody else have anything? All right,
Do you have anything or one?
No, I mean, I've read through all of the plan and I've got a lot of questions, so I'm excited to get up to speed and grateful to be here. And this is an issue that I'm also passionate about, and so grateful to be a part of this.
well, we're glad you're here.
And thanks for also bringing cookies.
And yeah, thanks for bringing, and yours are,
Anytime.
sure are better, because they're. Okay, I guess we're adjourned.